Okay, welcome to another episode of Geek-Men and the Masters of the Thunder Nerds. I'm Dustin.
I'm Bo.
I'm Zach.
I'm Zombie.
All right.
He made it.
I am very excited because we have a very special guest.
Let's go ahead and get introduced.
Zach. Who's Zach?
All right. Welcome, Brian Flynn. How's it going?
All right. How are you guys?
We're good.
I want to know who in the beginning was just like, you know what? Street Sharks. That's the one I want.
Kurt. But he isn't here today, which is sad.
Yeah.
All right. So then we're going to just make fun of him and Street Sharks this whole time.
This whole time. Yep. That's right.
That's what you get.
And vegetables.
We already got some excited people.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Yeah,
oh man,
all these people. Yeah.
Awesome, love it.
So let's
jump
into it.
All right, let the meetings begin, right?
Yeah. So we recently did an episode about how digital renders affect your product. Okay. So I was just wondering, how is that for you on your side?
That's a very open-ended question. I mean, the reality is it gives you there's a lot of tools to get to what this figure is going to look like. The problem that we run into, obviously, if I go out and I make it and I output it, sand it, paint it, do all that other stuff, I can't pose it. I can't do much with it. It's static and it doesn't really kind of come to life the same way. Mm-hmm. So most everybody's gone to rendering because we've built the files digitally. We've painted the files digitally. So then all you have to do then is pose and light them. And that should be representative of what that final figure is going to look like. Obviously, there's a point, though, where renders like that, especially as you zoom in, they're going to get infinitely cleaner. So if we go back one render, just even to Conan right there, at that level, zooming in on that joint in his elbow, it looks crisp and clean. But, you're talking about a joint that's, this big. So if you replicate that photograph with the actual toy product, there's no way that injection seam is going to be that razor perfect. So there becomes a moment where there's a level of perfection that's not really realistic. And it's not like I'm trying to sell you something I can't deliver, but people get so hung up on, things that would never bother them in real life, that they just, their head explodes, the brain melts out of the ears because of something that happens in this render or something that shows up and it's actually like, oh, it's 7.5 inches tall. And they've been looking at it at 1,600% for the last 9 months. And now, it's just, this is a travesty. And it's really difficult because I'm not trying to show people what I'm not going to make, because that's obviously counterproductive. But I'm definitely trying to say, this is what we've sculpted, this is what we've painted, this is what it looks like, and then we're going to work on getting it out in plastic. But those surfaces and everything are not the same as the material that's actually going to come out of the mold at a certain point.
Right.
It's a tricky fine line that doesn't get you. And then I'll go back here. This is a perfect example. Somebody on the bottom has put that in their light box. So they put it in a light box and they've lit it. So it looks like it's shiny as hell and discolored and everything. But if you hold it up in real light, it's not like that. It's matte and those tones are pretty even. And pretty even makes it sound dismissive. Those are two different kinds of plastic. That's an ABS and a PVC. And when they're next to each other, they look the same. But when you light them with 3 lights around your light box and put it in there, it's going to show off shiny and weird and who knows what. And then they're going to put it on a monitor and it just, there's no winning with that. But I know for a fact that Conan figure is not oiled up and ready to go. But if you want to get a lot of likes on your Instagram post, you'll make sure to hot that light up as much as you can, because the more you talk shit about it, the more people are going to react to it.
Yeah,
for sure.
Is there ever a point when you're playing with the renders, you've got them in your computer system and everything, and you're posing the renders themselves? Is there ever a point where you go, okay, maybe we're pushing this pose a little too far. This toy might not be able to get this pose?
Oh, we're always, we can't, because if I'm doing the render and parts start moving inside of other parts, we know that can't be done. So we won't render something that can't be posed. I think a lot of times what you get is just some of those things, like if you're going to do those wacky poses, it's like you're going to rotate the shoulder 90 degrees this way, then the bicep 60 degrees this way, then the elbow again this way. And when people get it, they're like, I moved the elbow and it's not working. And it's like, no, you got to really work with it. But no, that would be bad for us in a worse way, is if I rendered something up that technically can't even make that pose. Like, so, that Schwarzenegger pose there, we spent a lot of time on like, all right, what's the most extreme that we can get this at? But he isn't doing the full, it's not down behind his head like it's supposed to be. Like, and you can see in here on the render, you can see that gap that's in between his shoulder and his bicep where it's coming in and under. It's the way the lighting is, it's not showing it as exaggerated as the one down below, but they're both sitting in roughly the same position. So they were able to get it there. I think the difference here, if I'm looking at it, is the elbow isn't quite as far in, but that's pretty close. I think the thing that looks more off to me on this is the ABS PVC in here and the shine.
Is there ever a chance to where, I don't know, in the steps of production, that you can maybe hit it with some kind of matte coat just to dispel any type of hate? Because then that would render people putting in light boxes, it would make it to where they couldn't make that light show up like that, because then it would actually have a matte coat on it. Is that possible?
Obviously everything's possible. I think it depends on what we're using. So some of the Silverhawks and Thundercats and stuff that's more animation accurate, you'll see it has much more matte quality to it when it comes out, because it's supposed to replicate stuff that's on screen more. When we do stuff that's more human skin tone, I don't hit it with that same matte, only because the human skin tone generally has a certain, if you talk about your skin tone, it has a certain level of translucency to it. Like if you hold up your fingers to the light, you can see through the edges of your fingers. So generally, I try to sandblast the mold so that the skin texture isn't so polished, but I don't try to hit it with a clear coat on top. And if you look at it on your shelf, and feel free to disagree with me, but I think if you look at it on your shelf, it looks correct. But if you put it in any lighting situations, it becomes problematic. And I usually sort of default to, and maybe incorrectly for some people, is how is it going to look best when you put it on your shelf? Because 99% of the time, most people that I know that collect this stuff would get it, we open it up, we get excited, we pose it, we do this, and then we put it on the shelf in more of a static pose, and that's where it stays. And so once you've got it there and you're rearranging and then it's how they look together, I'm trying to get the optimal look at that point. Yeah. And then that comes back down to choices in articulation, choices in paint, choices in finish. And then there's generally somebody else that will have a divergent point of view from me, which is just as valid, but then usually gets emoted in a manner of, I absolutely don't know what the fuck I'm doing, and I've made decisions in my life.
Well, have you ever considered, how some companies, they employ, toy photographers in advance to kind of do their promo work instead of, to replace their renders later on, so people know, de-amazing a whole career out of it, take some amazing photographs. Have you ever thought about hiring somebody like that to take more grounded realistic photos of your figures while also showing off what they can do.
There's the catch-22 there, of course, is most of the stuff we're talking about right now are pre-orders. So I haven't gone into manufacturing when the pre-order goes up because I've got to make sure I've got to get enough orders to make the pre-order. And so I'm having to sell you something based on what we're trying to do. I don't now thing comes up. Paint job on Duke is such a good one. I didn't.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to bring this. This was actually just a compliment about your going back to some of the Wave 1 of G.I. Joe that just came out. I thought it was a good point.
Yeah, I mean, and then we've got an issue with Wave 2 of G.I. Joe where the faces weren't painted for some reason, and we're still mystery on that one why the skin tone wasn't painted on it. It's painted on Wave 1. It's painted on Wave 3, which you guys don't have yet, but we have. Our samples are painted of Wave 2, but apparently what shipped does not have painted faces. And so while they match, it's just not, unfortunately, there's always something that happens and that you can't always control. But hold on, I lost the original plot. And let's come back to your original question. So normally I can't photograph it because it doesn't exist. And as much as people may think otherwise, we're still very much in the zone of like, I hope we get enough orders to make this. And I'll say this where somebody says, well, that doesn't really happen with you guys anymore. I mean, that's not true at all. We're about to cancel a Disney wave right now on Rescuers. As much as that was the one of all the Disney stuff we were doing. I was like, I'm getting the Rescuers. And the numbers just aren't there to make it remotely worthwhile. So we're going to have to cancel Rescuers. And there's a couple others that are probably that are on the fence right now, especially as we're talking about, over the last year, I would say since last San Diego, toy buying has slowed down immensely because everybody's worried about where their next dollar's coming from.
Right.
So let me ask this while we're talking about Disney stuff with Rescuers being going to be canceled. So would something similar like that happen to, say, if you guys did more of the Haunted Mansion ghost characters or anything like that, like Figment maybe from Epcot, if you did a pre-order for something like that, if you got permission to do that and the numbers weren't there?
Yeah, I mean, that's if I take a few steps back, to sort of, 6-7 years ago when we started, really making more highly articulated figures, the whole point of doing it as a pre-order was so that we didn't have to guess on whether or not it was going to work. Like we couldn't afford to financially take the risk.
Yeah.
Because we're not sold most places that you buy toys still to this day. I'm trying my best, but that's $1 billion business fighting for shelf space. So it was, I'm good at getting off track. Let me finish this one. But, the whole point was if I know I've got X amount sold, if I cross this threshold, then we can make this and it can work and it's profitable and everybody's going to be happy. If I don't, and I go invest all this money into it, it could sink us, especially when we were smaller. It's not that radically different of a concept now. The difference is because there's so many companies making so much good stuff out there, there's far less dollars around. So everybody's like, oh, everybody's buying this stuff. But the reality is when we're the only people making it, we can sell X. But when that license is being made by multiple people and maybe it's more popular, my number really hasn't grown very much because you might be buying somebody else's stuff. I'll use Turtles as an example. You might buy my stuff. You might buy Randy NECA's stuff, who makes great stuff. You might only buy some of the other stuff. Like, there's not a lot of people. That's a beautiful toy, in my opinion. But there's not a lot of people that buy all the Turtle stuff across all the lines because you can't afford it all.
No way.
We're still in for I keep saying if you're a toy collector, this is the golden age of toy collecting. There has never been more stuff made from more licenses in more formats at a higher quality level ever.
Man,
Right.
you're not kidding.
And there's a lot of great companies making great stuff, but that doesn't mean the pie is bigger for everybody. The pie
Right.
just keeps getting chopped smaller and smaller.
Which brings up an interesting, like, to piggyback off of the render conversation. Last show we did, I'm talking about renders. We also did an unboxing. I picked up Quicksilver,
Mhm.
and
Oh,
it-
the long and
yeah.
winding story of Quicksilver.
And listen, I want to be the first, if not, I don't know how many people have actually talked to you about him, but as soon as I opened him, that figure is wonderful. I have him up on the wall over there, and it blew me away. Like, I love that figure. The render doesn't know justice at all on every website that shows the figure, and just, man, you got me to buy the rest of the line because I was
Got
like,
me-
okay, yeah. So I'm like, I'm gonna test the waters with Quicksilver, and then Quicksilver showed up, and I was like, okay, I'm in. You got
Once you
me.
get that, when you get Monstar.
Yeah.
Well, but Quicksilver is a perfect example, though. This is indicative of the larger thing, and I don't want to sound like I'm just making tons of excuses, but Silverhawks was one of the most problematic lines that we ever made, simply because we got we had a factory that we were using that we've used forever, that we still use, mostly for reaction. And it just wasn't coming together. And we spent a lot of time on the sculpts and the engineering and a lot of time on paint. And we spent so much time on this elaborate paint that we could make that was being sourced in Vietnam. And then we just couldn't get the QC that we needed. So we ended up having to move the tools to a different factory and more or less start over. In doing so, though, that pushed us into more of the pandemic era, the height of the pandemic. And the paint that we had developed for Quicksilver went from being expensive, but affordable, to 10x the price it was. So all of a sudden, this sort of iridescent matte, swirly kind of crazy color that you would hold and then turn it to the light and it would literally just go across it became impossible to use. And so then we had to spend a bunch of money to redo all the tools to make them work correctly. It's frustrating for me because I think that figure is beautiful and I don't want to downplay it, but I'm like, it's 95% of the way there. I see the 5% that's missing and it drives me bananas. Where on something like the big Monstar,
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, that one came out the way we expected, but I feel like we didn't 100% nail it. I appreciate that you love it, but I didn't 100%.
I can't imagine what the other 5% is now. Now that it's gonna kill me.
Yeah, see, and that's the problem is now I've ruined it for you.
No. It's no.
But where I was trying to go with that is that, unfortunately, none of this stuff, as much as it sounds like it should be, is never a linear straight line. Like, it should be, hey, we rendered it, you make a tool, you make a mold, you inject the plastic, you paint it, you ship it. How hard can it be?
Yeah.
It's like, actually, every step's going completely haywire at any given time. And things happen like Silverhawks Wave 2. This is going to drive me crazy. So for anybody that's got Silverhawks Wave 2, the palm, which is a third material, which is the joints.
Yes.
So you've got your ABS torsos, you've got PVC for most of the arm, and then we have palm, which is a form of nylon that we use in the joints. And that nylon just makes it so that the friction, because those things are all friction fit, slide a little easier. You can't paint palm without it scraping off. But we inject the palm in the exact same color as the finished painted figure. Well, if you look at Silverhawks Wave 2, the factory, in its effort to make sure everything was perfect, painted over the top of the palm, which they don't need to do. But then you get it, you move the joints, the paint scrapes off the palm, and you're like, oh, the paint's scraping off this figure. This is crap. And it's like, well, if you look at wave one, none of the POM is painted.
Yeah.
And you'd never know the difference, and then it looks right. But then something happens, and I say something happens because technically you can actually enter China now, but we still can't really go to the factory. It's not. State Department still is like, you should probably not go to China.
Completely
so
understand that.
we used to have somebody at the factory 2 weeks out of the month, every month, all the time. Constant rotation of somebody from us in the factory talking about the little things just to make sure that last little bit is done. One, most importantly, for expediency, to get things out faster. No, that's right. Make this change. Okay, got it. Boom, go.
Yeah.
Versus mail it to me. I make a comment, send it back, kind of thing. But those are the little things when you get into production. The factories are trying to make sure that it's perfect so that nobody comes back to them and asks for credit or a refund.
Yeah.
So Silverhawks 1 and Silverhawks 2 are at different factories. Silverhawks 2, they were like, oh, well, you're done. Figure's perfect. Somebody in there was like, well, we need to paint this part to make sure it's 100% a match. I don't want anybody saying no. And then we get it, and it's not on anything that we've ever had sampled. And then it shows up, and people are like, the paint's scraping. And I'm like, what do you mean the paint's scraping? There's no paint.
So is that
ultimately actually there is.
Yeah.
So these are those are the things that will kill you, because that guy that's paid $55 for that figure and is in love with it, and then it shows up and he moves the arm and the paint scrapes, it's just, he's going to throw up his hands in the air. And I'm on a tangent, but that's the stuff.
You're good. This is good stuff. Is that ultimately what affected distribution between Wave 1 and Wave 2? Because there was a kind of a weird timing issue. I noticed like Wave 2 kind of hit.
Wave 2 came before Wave 1 because we had to move the tools, move the molds, and then start over at the new factory. Everybody's got different machines. Wow. So literally, the temperature they're melting the plastic at, the direction it's in, yes, in the mold, it's direction, the plastic is being injected at certain pots, but the tension, the speed, all that stuff changes how it's melted. If you've ever seen plastic where you get it, where you can see the swirl marks inside, all that stuff's being squirted in there and swirled and until it, cools. So you've got to readjust everything for every machine. It's not as simple as like you just move it over. So there's a lot of work that goes into just the little things, that the way I also describe it to some people sometimes when you're talking about joints, whether you got a tight joint or a loose joint, you're talking about something that's a tolerance of about 1/100 of an inch between it being snug, too snug, or not snug enough. And a lot of that literally is you at the factory going, turn up the temperature 5 degrees.
Yeah.
How fast is it going to shrink when it cools? How much isn't? One of those things. And that's really what so much of the time is spent doing, is all these little annoying things that you do to make the figures fit perfectly, because they're mathematically fine in the tool, but that doesn't mean they come out of the tool mathematically fine.
Yeah, the shrinkage of curing, I know, I can't imagine how much that must really cause you headaches.
Well, because it's different. It'll be different for how big the piece is and how much mass it has. It'll shrink at a slightly different rate. It'll depend on which way it's oriented in the mold. So is it being shot and all the plastic coming down this way, like on an arm, or is the arm this way and it's coming out and going that way? The way that the melted plastic is flowing, almost like if you think about grain, is the way it's going to shrink. So all these little dumb things that you have to think about when making all this stuff it's mind-boggling sometimes.
Well then,
hey, All credit goes to Dustin for lining this up, not me. Sorry, that was a question.
I can't read and talk at the same time. So
No, you're fine. You're fine.
No, you're absolutely fine.
So
I don't take credit for other people's work. I don't.
Yeah. So, seeing as how much trouble Silverhawks gave you, there is a kind of a heartbreaker question I have to ask you. As far as licensing, people are kind of there's whispering.
People on the internet have nothing to do but talk about
exactly. And then the more you look at it, the more you're worried, and then that brings us to a certain character, Copper Kid.
Kid's coming.
Oh, I can't tell you how good that makes.
So you just
Copper Kid will be coming.
Copper Kid's coming.
Copper Kid is coming.
Will be what is wave?
So
wave 5 will be Copper Kid.
Wave
5 will be Copper Kid.
Wow.
Because maybe I'm getting ahead of myself and talking about shit I shouldn't.
No.
Wave 5.
No, you said it.
Wave 5 is Copper Kid and his Space Racer.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
So
sort of like when we did Mandora and her Electrocharger.
Yeah.
We're going to do Copper Kid and Space Racer because theoretically you might already have a Mirage, but
Well, see, that's what I was curious about. What about Thundercats got the Thundertake? What about the Mirage? Is there any plans for that?
If we get far enough, yes, but we got to get
So, because
vehicles are, especially big vehicles, take a lot of work. So there's only so many vehicles we can do at a time. Like we delivered Thunder Tank, we're finishing Party Wagon. After that goes, we have another vehicle that will come out at San Diego Comic-Con. It is not the Mirage.
Oh,
I'll just squash that right now. It's not the Mirage.
They're already
but
speculating in the
it's
comments.
something that people have been asking for a very, very long time. And then there's another vehicle after that. And did we? Yes. All right. Sorry. We'll talk. We can jump ahead to that here in a second. There's a few other vehicles that we want to get to first, and then if that Silverhawks fan is still there, then I'd love to do the Mirage, but we're going to do Copper Kid and the Space Racer first.
Good.
Cool.
Good. Thank you.
But wave 4 of Silverhawks, we're still trying to convince. I have samples from the factory that are fucking going to make people's brains melt, but the factory does not want to make them. So I am trying to convince the factory that they should make these. I don't want to have to move it to yet another factory. So
okay. So before we get off the vehicle discussion, okay, Monstar, he wants his Skyrunner. Put that on the table, please.
all in time. Hopefully, let me rephrase that. Hopefully, all in time.
I can't even imagine constructing that thing.
It's got to have the bendy tentacles in the front, though.
Yeah. That thing was massive.
It would have to be. Well, think about how big the toy is to fit inside it.
Yes, it would rock so much.
Yeah, you'll have to put it in the garage.
I've got room in there.
Well, I was wondering, like the Feliner and the other vehicals too. It's just like, oh man, that would be insane to have, but I don't have any room to put it.
Yeah, I mean that is the $1 million question with vehicles. Generally speaking, for every person that buys toys, 1 out of 5, 1 out of 10 of them will actually pick up the vehicles as well, because especially big vehicles, because they just take up too much space, and then they're expensive. So getting people over onto them is tricky. But if you make them, they're fucking cool.
Yeah,
they are.
And if you say they're coming, that just means you get a bigger piece of that pie. that they need to stop with the other pieces of pie out there and just
You
save
know, I don't want to make it sound like it's a combative thing. It's, you know, we're pretty good friends with pretty much everybody else that makes stuff in this industry. I'm excited by what other people make, and then I make stuff, and they're excited about what I make, and then we send each other stuff. So,
yeah, I mean, like the turtle van. I mean, you announced that, and then like 4 other people announced theirs, and I'm just like, oh, jeez.
that becomes a sort of a licensor problem, and I'm not saying that's Viacom actually replaced people that worked there right after that, where, you know, no one was managing it. So normally then you have somebody inside there going, you can't do this right now because these people are doing it. And then when those people are done with it, then you can do with it. But I don't want people doing it on top of each other because it cannibalizes.
Yeah.
You know, and so, yeah, that became very problematic because all of a sudden there were like 4 turtle vans at once.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we started on it, there was no turtle vans.
Right.
Well, there's been like a huge resurgence in people. Like once you open those floodgates, vehicle demands have come back tenfold. Like nobody was making vehicles for 6-inch, 7-inch, and now everybody wants a vehicle for something.
Right. Except I wouldn't want a vehicle for Star Wars. It's unrealistic.
I mean, that's an interesting one when we talk about G.I. Joe, which is the vehicles are so integral to G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
Yet so many Joe collectors I know are like, I don't have room for all these vehicles. And they don't do the vehicles. That said, Hasbro had that Hiss tank, and they sold about 8 billion of them. So good on them.
Yeah.
And there's that question of scale too, because you scale more 7-inch than Hasbro, so your vehicles would even be.
Let me maybe clarify that. We will not be making any vehicles for G.I. Joe Ultimates because that would be considered a direct competition to what Classified is doing.
Gotcha.
So
yeah, because
I'll be very clear on that right now. We will not be making G.I. Joe Ultimates vehicles.
Yeah.
No USS flags.
So I want to ask. I want to circle back to Joe Wave 2. You said that the faces were not painted. Does that mean that they were done in a flesh tone injected plastic?
Yeah, they're injected color and then not painted over. So usually when we do animation figures, because they're supposed to look like cartoons, we'll inject them and then paint over the face. But like Conan, Rexor, Thorgrim, all that kind of stuff, we leave, the plastic as is, and it has an ever so slight translucency, more like real human skin.
Right.
For whatever reason, like, because, a couple people have gotten it, and then we were not aware, the faces are not painted. Now, when you picked up the figure and you hold it in your box, you're not going to notice immediately. But if you go to light it and do some other stuff, you will see that there is a sheen difference between the two.
And I'm assuming it's way too late in the game to go back and correct it. It's just that's how
they're in the mail.
Released.
Yeah, they're already shipped and gone.
They're already shipped. Okay. I did have somebody
it's one of those things where I think, and they have a valid point, but it is going to be 100 people that are really upset, and then the other thousands of people are like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, the squeaky wheels are the ones that are going to hear.
That we keep talking about. It's that last 5% where they're like, but if the face was painted, this would be perfect. And I can't argue with them in this one because the face was supposed to be painted.
Yeah.
Well,
I will definitely be directing everybody to this episode at this timestamp whenever I see somebody complaining about that, and I'm going to say, you hear him say why and how that happened, so don't complain too much.
Yeah, it's frustrating, but it's also one of those things, like I said, one, it's already late, it's done, it's out. But same thing, when I pull them out of the package, I'm like, these look fucking great. It's just really, if you put it under lighting, that you notice a sheen difference. I think that most people will not notice that is the case.
Dang, did we just spill the beans?
No, trust me, my Instagram is full of people telling me how awful I am because of that.
Well, can I actually segue to that? I'd like to get to my question because it directly pertains to that. You said during I think it was a Pixel Dan interview, you expressed this fear of being like not being conscientious enough of the people who buy Super 7 figures and inadvertently making them inaccessible, or I don't know quite the word, but that your main goal wasn't for people that they couldn't collect it or wouldn't have access to it, or anything like that. And it's been over a year now since that interview, and there's been, like you said, you're getting it now. There's this abundant amount of customers that they kind of tell you about the QC issues, and they tell you about how they won't either hire QC or lower prices or whatever. Like, how do you address the conflict between what the customers are saying to you, loyal customers, and your perceived notion of what Ultimate has to be?
It's a fine line. I mean, there is a line that I also have to take when it's like, how many, the first thing you have to do with criticism and go, is it valid? Is it warranted? And I think I've said this before too, which is the only reason people are criticizing something or complaining about it, not always, but in most cases, we're assuming most people are generally altruistic about this, is because they care. And they had a very distinct idea of what they were getting and what they wanted. And if it isn't exactly what they thought it was, they get upset. And so the first thing I have to look at is, with that critique, is it valid? Now, sometimes it is, a lot of times it's not. And I'm not trying to dismiss somebody's critique, but a lot of times it's just, I want to be angry, and so I'm going to be angry. And I have to take that into account. Like, all right, how many of these things did I sell? Let's make up a round number for argument's sake. We'll say we sold 1,000 of them. And there's 15 guys that are furious, just furious about it. But the other 985 guys are stoked. Well, I don't know that maybe they're right, or maybe there was nothing I could do that was going to make those 15 guys happy. I'm not sure. But when things are legitimately wrong, we've gone out of our way to fix them. Things like Triclops' head and the visor not moving correctly when it got glued into place, we sent replacement heads. When the hands were wrong on NJPW, we sent replacement hands. Like, we'll fix it if it's legitimately wrong.
Yeah.
At the same time, when you get into then you get into the more esoteric points about people's complaints, which is, whether it's a certain kind of articulation, a certain kind of finish, or a certain kind of accessory, that becomes much more about opinion. And I try to take that with a grain of salt, but there's a certain point which is, well, this is the version I'm making. And I think the hard part for people there is, once again, I've been thinking about, we'll use Silverhawks. I've been thinking about Silverhawks for 20 years. I've wanted somebody to make Silverhawks in 7-inch. This is the way I've always imagined it. The version that you have made is not how I've imagined it for 20 years. And when something is close to what I want, but not quite what I want, it's almost more infuriating to that person than if it was completely divergent. And what I try to tell people is like, look, we're making our version of this. And if it's not your version, it's also okay. We went into this with Masters early on, where we got so much flack from people because we were making reaction figures of Masters of the Universe. Why would you waste your time making these shitty 3 3/4 figures with no articulation that are not pumped up? This is crap. And I'm like, then don't buy it. But you can buy the Ultimates from me. Or later, when we made the vintage style figures, you can buy the vintage style figures from me. But there is a guy that grew up on Star Wars and Masters that this is for. And it's okay if this version of Masters is not for you. It's okay to not have everything. And that's divergent to most of our personalities as collectors. We want it all. And getting some of those collectors to understand that not everything we make from every license is specifically for you, that it might be for your friend or your friend's friend instead. That's a difficult conversation, surprisingly, to have with people. The idea that when we make something, if it's not for them as a fan, is somehow sacrilegious almost, if that makes any sense at all.
No, you're talking to a group of dudes who have had those conversations.
Yeah.
And so going back to what I try to do with Ultimates, I try to make it available to everybody. It's not going to drop and the site sold out in 5 minutes and I didn't get mine and now I got to buy it from a scalper, or it didn't make it to shelf, or whatever. It's like, it's up for a month. If you want one, order one. We got plenty. I'll make as many as people want, but I'm not going to go make a whole bunch of other stuff that people don't want either.
Well, Christopher Kelly says, please, 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 G.I. Joe reaction play sets. So it's not Ultimates. For him, it's a reaction.
Well, I mean, G.I. Joe, we'll come back to G.I. Joe reaction, but that's another, there's a lot of people out there that reaction is just sacrilege because it's not over. So
no, it's just not for them. There's people that they love it.
It's for another guy. But, I try to make it as available as I can. I try to be as realistic as I can with prices. I know everybody's like, you should be able to sell this for $20.99. They're making this for pennies in China. I was like, China's what, the third largest economy in the world at this point? They're not making anything for pennies anymore, people.
No.
I want to dispel that rumor right now. They sell a whole lot of luxury goods in China, and if you're working at a factory, you're not buying that. Like, people in China have money. Like, it's not quite what you think.
Do you kind of sit back and kind of smile a little bit at some of the other companies? They've kind of raised their prices over the past maybe 1 or 2 years, and
we've had to raise ours too.
But not at the point of some other companies that are kind of killing collecting for a lot of people.
Well, I think it's a hard thing to say, because the reality is, and somebody will do a study on this and tell me I'm wrong, but when I was a kid, a Star Wars figure I think was $2.99 in 1978. And they're all like, these should be $7.99. I'm like, it was $2.99 in 1978. Like, why should it be $7.99 now or $19.99 or whatever? It's there is a thing that's happened. It's across all of America. It's been the drive to the bottom line, right? Everything's gotten cheaper. Skateboard decks for me in 1984 cost $50. $49.99 was a skateboard deck. In 1984, you can buy a skateboard deck now for $49.99. Like, that price hasn't changed in 40 years, almost. Everything has gotten cheaper across the board. As manufacturing has gotten cheaper, products have gotten cheaper. But that's based on grand scales of industry. And when we're talking about specialized stuff like this, I look at it and, I remember when we were working with Mattel and talking to the Hot Wheels people, Hot Wheels are $1.29. I can't even buy a bottled water for $1.29.
Right.
How is a Hot Wheels? And it's like, well, it's $1.29 because they make a dime on the car, and the retailer makes a dime on the car, and they sell 100 million a year. That's it. But I'm like, if they raise the price of a Hot Wheel from $1.29 to $2.99, it's still the cheapest car out there. Like, I don't understand. I'm not trying to say just raise prices arbitrarily, but they back themselves into a corner where they don't feel like they can raise the price on it, but they can't make any money on it. Mm-hmm. So what do they do? And then they're too scared to make a move.
Yeah, and I'm sure I was gonna say, I'm sure shipping is probably terrible as well.
It's gotten affordable again. For a while, a container costs us about $6,000 to go from China to the States. In the height of the pandemic, the most I ever paid for a container was $23,000. So when we talk about like prices and what things cost, like containers are back down to normal price again. But there was a moment where if I amortize the math out, 50 cents per every figure I ship, every ultimate, 50 cents of that cost is just putting it on a container. Well, in the height of the pandemic, actually now it was $2 instead of 50 cents. Things like that take a toll. But coming back to your question about people raising prices, is that whether people like it or not, I've always tried to be very realistic about look, we are not a commodity. We do not operate on the Bezier curve that they teach you in college, where price versus inventory. If you lower the price, you'll sell twice as many. It's like there's only X amount of guys that want Silverhawks. Doesn't matter if it's lower or higher. I'm not going to sell more. So I need to know how many I can sell and what the price needs to be to make it work. And it's either a yes or no scenario. And so we've always been a little bit more expensive than everybody because there's no other place for me to go with this stuff. There's not a well that's any deeper. This well is one sized, and that's all there is.
I'm pretty sure everybody understands that too, as well as you're more of a boutique collector item. We can't get you at Walmart or Target or Best Buy.
I'm trying my best. It's not working.
Yeah, retail. Well,
it's not that it's not working. We'll get a few things in there, but it'll be corporate initiatives. Like a while back, about 2 months ago, you could buy some Mighty Morphin Power Rangers stuff that we made at Walmart. You could get some of the Super Cyborgs and some reaction figures. But that was part of a Hasbro Mighty Morphin Power Rangers initiative that we were able to tack on some product to. It's not like I magically got the space.
Right.
But even then, once again, I try to temper people's expectations of what this is. There's a big difference between selling something to an 8-year-old. Think about how many 8-year-olds there are in the world. A lot of 8-year-olds. And then if you talk about how many grown men are there that want to buy toys, there's a lot of them. But I would challenge any of you to, once you leave this space, if you will, how many people at your work or your office or at your kid's Little League game or any place else that you go collect this stuff? And the answer is probably 0, maybe 1 or 2. I don't know. Maybe you've got some place that's really good, but there's really not that many people. So using a very simple thing, like if you're in half the Walmarts, which is generally what the collector sections are in, you're talking about a little over 2,000 stores. That's great. So 2,000 stores, and you put 2 units of each SKU in that store, now that's a huge buy for somebody like us. But it still means that there's only 4,000 of them out there. And that's it. It's not this thing where people are like, oh, they made 20,000, 50,000, 100,000. That's what's happening in the boys section because they're not putting 2 on a peg. They're putting 6 on a peg, selling through, restocking it 2 weeks later with 6 more, restocking it 2 weeks later with 6 more, restocking it 2 weeks later with 6 more. You multiply that times all 4,000 doors, and all of a sudden, they sold $1 million over there.
Yeah, that's if you got good distribution.
But that's if you've got the biggest fish out there to sell collective product. And even then, so when people are like, oh, you're in Walmart, you should be rolling in money. It's like, okay, it was a great buy for us, but it's still, in the overall scheme of the toy world, it's still a very, very small amount. And I think the perception is that people are making so many of these pieces. I think the reality is the market is much smaller than people believe it is.
Well, can I follow up and ask you a question about that? Because I like to ask this question when I talk to anybody of your caliber, which isn't that often. Do you think we'll be, considering how we're we're too afraid to like come up with new IPs, and we don't necessarily make toys for children. They're more catered toward adult collectors. Do you think we will be the last generation to actively buy action figures?
I've actually talked about this quite a lot because people could say, "Oh, what happens when kids aren't?" I'll go a couple different places. For me, growing up, the toys were super important. I'll use Star Wars as the place I started. So it's obviously the big thing that everybody always talks about. But for me, I was 7 years old. I saw Star Wars. I saw Star Wars one time. The only way I ever got to play or live or relive Star Wars from that point on was I had the Star Wars photo book, The Story of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
I had action figures and the comic books from Marvel, which made no sense to me because they weren't the movie.
Right.
I'm like, who is this bunny? I don't understand what's going on. So the only way I relived Star Wars my whole childhood was through the toys. And then you get to, if you will, still me, but like my little brother and kids a little younger, maybe they could watch the cartoon after school. But they still that was still 30 minutes. The next 3-4 hours were with the toys.
Mm-hmm.
I think that future generations, if you will, have less time with the toys because they can digest the content over and over again. I think about my kids and what they watch. They get excited about a show. They binge watch it over and over and over and over, and they get full of it. But that doesn't mean that they go away from the toys. I think the difference is the toys just hold less importance. So I think you're going to see less people that are that hold them maybe quite as preciously as we do.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think you're going to have people that get into it. And I say that only because, especially as we talk about the music stuff that we make, 90% of the people that buy the music stuff that we make, when I meet them, they don't collect any other toys and they don't even really tie it in. They're just like, these are cool and fun. So they still get those primal urges that we had with them as kids, but they're coming into it as adults. So I do think that there's going to be something there. I just think it's going to be a little bit different. They're not going to be hung up on like, when you do something and you're like, oh, well, I'm going to throw Voltron and I'm going to put it on a vintage package. They're not going to be like, oh my God, that's the original package. They're not going to do Thundercats. Oh, it's the white crackle background. Like, woo, that's not going to fit them the same way, but they're going to be like, oh, I like Thundercats. Give me the toy.
Yeah.
That's going to be your point of difference. I do think, though, from all indications are that we can see is that toys still hold a pretty strong resonance for people regardless. And it's not maybe that same nostalgia driven pull that we have where we think of, April O'Neil is in this color jumpsuit because that's what she was as a toy, not what she was on TV. Like, oh, she's got a green jumpsuit because she came with the party wagon. That kind of stuff we get excited about that doesn't make as much sense to other people that I think will lessen. But I think the general vibe of it, I think there's still going to be a community for it.
I hope so.
I'll back up one more sentence. Like, you can still sell old tin toys for a fortune to younger collectors to this day. Tin toy prices are higher than they've ever been. None of the people collecting them grew up on tin toys.
Yeah.
No.
All right, good point.
Yeah.
Has anybody else got any questions before we move into rapid fire?
Oh boy. Yeah.
You're like, we only actually asked 4 questions. Then he rambled for 15 minutes each time.
That's what we want.
No, this is great. This is great. It's great stuff.
Okay. So yeah, how do I want to put this? Like SUPER7 has dozens of licenses. Is there ever any like fear of spreading yourself too thin or announcing too many things all at once?
Yeah, I think we're definitely gotten there in a few places. There's definitely there's a fine line here. Look, I don't think there's any secret here that I'm excited about this stuff. and I can see what will work, and I know like Rescuers is a perfect example. Like no one's ever made anything for Rescuers ever in the history of Disney.
Right.
There's no Rescuers toys ever. Like look, when Penny goes down the well as a kid, that scared me. Like, I was not cool with that, and I'm like, how has nobody ever made anything for Rescuers? So I can clearly see what to make and what I want. And come on, everybody should be there with me, right? Doesn't necessarily mean everybody's there with me. So sometimes it is tricky. And then the harder part is, there's a couple of things that we're looking at, which is like, at what point is, hey, you've done it. That's enough. We don't need any more. And that's a harder one, because I'm like, no, we can do this and this and this
Right.
and this and this. But at a certain point, there may be like, everybody's like, I have enough. I'm good.
I'm still waiting for somebody to make a Condor Man action figure, if you can make that happen.
You're talking about the American Condor Man, not the Japanese.
Yeah.
I got you on that one.
Good.
not yet, but I know I'm like, I can see it. I can same thing, probably like you. I can picture it very clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Okay.
enough people to make it worthwhile making it without losing my shirt. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you could probably only make like 5.
So what? Okay, this one's a question I personally want to ask. Like, I know you've got the license and rights for the to make a reaction My Pet Monster. Have you guys ever discussed making the plush?
No, and we haven't really. We talked about it for a brief moment and decided that it wasn't. It's kind of like in some cases like that, it's more of a question for me of like, if you can still get the old one affordably, do you need one from me? And so with My Pet Monster, you can still get the old plushes fairly affordably, I think. And for me to there's not a lot of tooling other than the handcuffs, but for me to get up and make it production run that's significant enough to make it worth our time, I don't really think that we can sell enough to offset the cost of what it would cost to get the old ones. That was my initial argument on Shogun Godzilla. Everybody was just like, when are you going to remake the Shogun Godzilla? I'm like, if I remake the Shogun Godzilla, it's going to cost $400, but you can go buy a loose one for $200. So why? Now, in the last 2 years, Shogun Godzilla has zoomed up, and now a loose one's going to cost you $400 or $500, and a box one's going to cost you more than that. So then it becomes a question about whether or not it's feasible to do. But a lot of times it's, there's definitely things that we get asked about, like, you guys could go make this. And I'm like, like people, one guy was really hounding me about, you need to make all the pilots from Voltron. I was like, you can still buy the Panache Place Voltron pilots for $20 each. Like, why do I need to make that?
Okay, so no,
consider it a compliment.
Right.
So no My Pet Monster plush right now.
We're still getting Copper Kid, all right? I mean,
yes.
You're getting Copper Kid.
All right, time for rapid fire.
Run for your life! I'll cover you!
I love the fact that he can make fun of himself.
We asked questions. We got some way before the show even started. So, will Valera's eyes be brown like the actresses in the film? I know there's people expressing a little worry about that.
Yes, they will be brown. That is a point well taken, Internet.
Burbles. Will we be getting Burbles anytime soon in the Thundercats line?
Not in the near future. We've talked about Burbles, and maybe it's just me, but I'm like, Burbles are the Ewoks of and I'm like, we may get there, and I know people like them, but there's a lot of other things I'd rather be doing than Burbles right now.
Much rather. I still want the Lunatics, all the Lunatics. So I'm glad that you made one. So
there's plenty of stuff to do.
Right.
Toxic Crusaders, do you plan on doing any more, or are you done with this line?
We're not done with this line. It's just a trickier line. It's a much, much smaller group of people. Like Toxie himself does really well. Everybody else is, it's right on the edge. There is another Toxie figure coming out at New York Comic-Con. So there'll be an exclusive figure of some sort for New York. We have worked on Dr. Killamov and crap. I'm blanking on his name right now.
I do that too.
Oh, we worked on them. They're not actively on the list right at the moment, but we're not trying to go away from Toxic Crusaders, for lack of a better description. It's just, it's not one of those lines where you're like, yeah, cool, just throw out another wave. We gotta work our way very slowly through Toxie, but we're not going away from Toxie.
Okay, good.
Someone's wanting to ask if there's a possibility of a low run. You guys tackling since you did Scratch Hotspot.
He's not on the list right now, but yeah, that would be a really good one to make.
And possibly I want to see the exact wording in this, because even I didn't know about these guys. The unproduced Spellcaster Splinter and Mike the Knight from this low run line.
I will say that I had no idea about this. Now Josh may be like,
I'm with you.
This is the first I'm seeing of it. And he's going to tell me something like, I pitched that to you 3 years ago. And I'll be like, I forgot about it.
So Pete McCarthy wants to know, what about where's the standing of Monty Moose?
Monty Moose.
This is everybody going like, what about my guy? What about my guy? And it's like,
that's pretty much what Rapid Fire was killing us with.
Yeah, no. Monty the Moose is also not in the immediate future.
All right, sorry, Pete.
There. The recent line. People worried about the step back from the homage to like the Playmates. Where is that line? Where's the next TMT line going?
I think there is the internet has made up their mind about certain things that are maybe not necessarily true.
That's why we got to ask you, man.
Yeah. So there definitely are sensitivities around that, but our whole point is that we are reimagining and reinterpreting as new. Right? They're not just scale ups of the old. And so, you'll see with everything, there's definitely moments where you're like, okay, that I know the old figure and I see how that's evolved into the new figure. That's really where we need to be these days. That's why you don't see unpainted weapon racks anymore as an example. And, that's just a very fine line. And sometimes we get that line right. Sometimes we don't get the line right. But it is still very much taking those classic Playmates characters and then reimagining them as modern articulated figures.
Yeah, you knew this was coming. How's the turtle?
There's a video that's supposed to already be out that isn't, of me giving an update with like the all new test shots. This is another one where we had to move the turtle van from one factory to another, and actually it got there and it didn't. Does anybody have the Thunder Tank?
Yes, I do.
Dustin has a Thunder
Tank. There's a heft to Thunder Tank. The turtle van didn't quite have it. So we ended up having to revise almost all the tooling to make it bigger, thicker, heavier, sturdier. And so every little bit. So if you make all the wall thicknesses thicker, every joint, everything had to change. So we basically had to redo or update, but redo all of the tooling on Turtle Van.
Wow.
It is almost completed. I think it actually ships out of the factory in late July, early August. I'd be interested to see what you threw something up earlier that showed when things were coming out. I know we just emailed about it.
Oh, yeah.
I did a video. I recorded the video 2 weeks ago. It's still not out, of me with all orange test shot of that's Thundercat doesn't have turtles. An all orange test shot of the new van, and it feels like it's supposed to feel. And then we've got a painted green sample that we've approved photographically that's in the mail right now, that we've got an earlier one that we made notes on, because I didn't want to do a video with one that had half the correct paint, because that was going to set the internet on fire. So if this one that shows up that's being shipped to us, that should be here, it can't be here Monday because it's a holiday, so Tuesday, if that should be 95%, and then we make a couple tweaks and then we go into production. So it's really close, but it's taken a long time. But there'll be a video coming out hopefully very soon that's going out to everybody that pre-ordered it, of me with the orange test shot going, all right, here, look at everything, look at this, like, feel this, like, here it is. It's real. It's happening. It's coming along.
Well, we can also just quickly go through some of these questions in the chat that we promised we would. Collecting Ultimate Thundercats, Silverhawks, G.I. Joes. It seems like delivery dates jump from spring to fall. Any indication why summer deliveries seem light?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things that happen there. So first is the easiest way to talk about it is Chinese New Year happens in February, or Lunar New Year. It's not Chinese New Year, it's Lunar New Year, because more than China celebrates it. But Lunar New Year is in February, which means everybody is working their ass off to get everything they can done by January, because screw you, nothing's happening after that. And so all sorts of stuff gets piled up into January and things fall off. Nobody works in February. Factories, what happens in China is everyone goes back home. Most of the factory workers are from very rural areas of China. They all leave. So when they start the factories back up in March, they usually start back up at 50% capacity, waiting for people to travel back. Are those people not coming back? And I have to replace the workers. And then so April, you're back at capacity. So especially if you're dealing with things that need tooling or production, March and February, nothing's going to happen. March, you're getting a little bit of stuff done, but April's really when you kind of start getting stuff working on again. And then if you've experienced any delay or anything that's off, now you're talking about May. Then you add 2 months of transit onto that, it's June, July. So things don't really get back into people's, all of a sudden it's like, if anything got delayed in December, January, leading into Chinese New Year, or even into March as the people came back, then all of a sudden there's a 2 or 3 month delay that happens after Chinese New Year. And so all the stuff that's supposed to be here, if it's supposed to be here in June, I got my calendar backwards, that means it had to leave the factory in April. Well, maybe it didn't leave the factory in April. So now it's and so you get this sort of 2.5 month gap that then moves down into delivery dates afterwards based on when things didn't happen. And generally, it's just annoying. There's no other good answer. I'd love to tell you that there was a wonderful diabolical plot around the summertime. No one buys in the summertime. They only drink iced tea, so we don't ship anything. It's annoying because we've predicated so much of what we're doing on, like, okay, when this delivers, then I can offer this, or when this delivers, then this can go on sale. Oh, well, crap. So
I think we glossed this one earlier, but we're coming back to it. the other characters in the wave that are masked. Can I expect this in the future waves?
I don't know what he's trying to say by the wave that are masked.
Paint job takes such a good representation. The other characters in the wave are masked. Christopher's
If
still around.
Mr. Kelly is still around. If he could give me some clarification on what he was trying to ask about masked versus unmasked, because if he says masked to me, I think he's thinking about paint masks. But if he's talking about representation, is he talking about
alternate heads?
I automatically assume people are trying to talk about the faces, but there's no masking on faces.
Yeah, maybe mean alternate heads. But as far as I remember, the 80s, the Ultimate G.I. Joes, nobody wears any kind of. I mean, other than Snake Eyes.
I think he's talking about paint masks.
Paint masking. Looking at Sunbow accurate. Dude,
where you could see his face. Because Snake Eyes, you couldn't see his face.
Yeah.
Cobra Commander, you couldn't see his face. Who else was in one?
So he's talking about literal face covering masks.
Mask.
Making it so you could take the mask off and see who's underneath it?
I mean, some of
that.
that.
Does anybody really want to see that Snake Eyes face from the comic book where he's like, and I don't know that we've ever seen Cobra Commander's face.
That's too taboo. We're not allowed to.
No, that's the hood.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think this is a good question. The Rat King that you did listen to it and you kind of backed off of it. Is there any plans to reuse that? Just slap a Shredder's Revenge Rat King version of it? Because I didn't think this was a bad figure. I actually kind of thought it was cool looking.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a great looking figure.
I know it's not show accurate or figure accurate.
I think that for where people are going with this line and where we've started in here, it doesn't evoke the Playmates figure enough for them. There's a lot of things that were very specific to that figure, which I can understand. It's not to say that we won't ever bring that sculpt back, but there's a different, more Playmate centric. It sounds so wrong to say, but more of an evolved Playmates version of that figure coming. But it's once again riding that line between, we're not just remaking the Playmates figure. We've got to evolve that figure into something new.
Fair enough. So I think the big takeaway from this is essentially what everybody was wanting to know, that indeed the Copper Kid is coming, and he's not coming alone.
Yes.
There you go.
He'll have his space racer.
He'll have his space racer, because you may have a Mirage on your shelf already from the old days.
Oh, I wish
but
I
you
still
never got a space racer.
Yeah, the Copper Kid was my favorite as a youth. It was just cool. One of my, I think he is my favorite Silverhawk.
See, I'm doing it just for you, Bo. I thought you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
What is it? No. Yeah. So
only make one.
I'm willing to come to your warehouse and do labor
But Bo, you're getting your Copper Kid and Space Racer. I'm gonna make my own My Pet Monster.
You need to make a life-size one.
I could, I'm not saying I can't do that.
Yeah, spread the word.
So thank God.
Yeah.
Held from the mountains.
Well,
Silverhawks is not. I think the amount of times people were telling me that I lost the license to Silverhawks, I was like, really? It's news to me.
I know everybody was in panic mode. It was like, man,
they're worried about completing that team because they're so used to getting let down by other companies.
Been the thing where people are just like, Jesus, we're one away from the team. It's like,
I think it was the website thing when people try to look up anything Silverhawks on Super7. There's nothing there. It's just like, oh my God, he's lost a license.
Well, it's because it's only been pre-orders and they're sold out because they were open. Now they're closed. I don't.
Yeah. There you go. Clarification. Awesome.
Yeah,
I think actually, if you search the site now, I think you can find the puzzle and the T-shirt. I think that's all there is. Maybe glasses. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
One last question before is Way Forward pre-orders coming anytime soon?
It's supposed to be. It's supposed to be 2 weeks from now, but I think it's going to get delayed because to my other thing earlier, we're just going through some stuff with the factory on making it the way we want it made versus making the way they want to make it. Because they want to make it so that this is going to sound negative. It's not meant to sound negative. It's efficient. Is the least problematic way possible. And we want to make it the problematic way because there's an aesthetic choice to it. And they really don't want to do it that way because it creates the opportunity for things to go wrong. And I'm like, I understand. Tell me what the defect rate is. And let's work that in to the price. And they're like, but there's going to be a higher range of defects. I'm like, yes, I know. But we don't want to make defects. So it's this push and pull right now with the factory on that. So once we get the clarification on that, I will then Wave 4 will go because it all comes back to the same thing. At a certain point, they'll do it. They're not going to be happy about it, but you're going to have to pay more for it then because I'm not happy about it.
Well, there you go. Well, we can't thank you enough for your time. Honestly,
I have no problem nerding out about toys anytime.
happy belated anniversary as well.
My toys, but we want to go down the well on other vintage stuff. I'll talk about toys all day long.
No. And in case anybody's wondering, I just happened to see you guys are having a sale on reaction figures on your website. In case I think it's buy 3 get 1 free.
Yeah, it's technically our 22nd anniversary here.
Yeah, happy anniversary.
22 is one of those big celebration years. So it kind of caught us off guard. We didn't really plan for it, and they're like, "We should do something." And I was like, "Oh, what do you want to do?" Like, we should have some sales. It's our anniversary. I'm like, "Oh, okay."
T-shirts are on sale. T-shirt sales are up. And what else? Because you guys started originally as a magazine, you have the old issues available to read for free on your website.
Yeah, they've actually been up there for years. It's just that if you don't tell anybody where to find them, they're hard to find. But all the issues are up. I don't think the book is up for some reason. The book's not up, and then because I know we have a PDF of the book, and then there's the Tokyo travel guides that we did like 10 years ago that used to be a PDF too. I don't know where those are. I noticed that the book was not up, but you should also be able to download them as PDFs.
Yeah, they were. If you're a Tokusatsu fan, there are a lot of goodies there.
Yeah, there's a lot of nerdery in there. There's a lot of stuff I got yelled at in Japan for telling people about. In the first issue, we have an article on the standard size Godzilla Marathon and Bullmark figure. And then we have a panel on the side that shows the charts of the different tails. And there's 4 different tails, but the first one is the J tail. And that was a well-guarded secret in Japan because if you knew about the very first edition tail, it didn't pull out of the mold well. That was a very, very, very expensive vinyl, but most people didn't know it even existed. And I had several years prior, an old Japanese collector tell me about it in confidence, sort of, just like, let me back up. In Japan, collecting is very insular. In America, it's very collaborative. Everybody talks about everything. If you find out about something weird and rare, you tell your buddy, everybody keeps an eye out for it. In Japan, it has always been very, if I give you that information, you might get it instead of me. And so when we published the first issue, we had all the tails broken out and said what the J tail was. And the next time I went to Japan, I got severe dressing down by that same collector going, "I did not tell you that so you could tell the world that." I told you that because as a collector, he had one, and you had everything else that there was still something you needed, and I was being friendly to you, and you've almost betrayed that confidence by telling me.
Oh, jeez.
And I'm like, yeah, but how the hell else am I supposed to know? We don't speak Japanese, and no one's talking about it. But so there was definitely a lot of stuff like that where we would publish stuff, and people would be like, "You're not supposed to tell people." And we're like, "What do you mean?" It would be the equivalent of people in the States, like, you're not allowed to tell people that missile firing Boba Fett's actually do exist.
Right.
You know, that way you could maybe get one and they wouldn't know what it was. I'm like, well, that's not nice. Anywho, that's a side tangent. So if you want to learn about all the versions of Godzilla Tales, you can jump on over to SUPER7 and download issue number 1.
Yeah, all the links below, links to your Instagram as well, I believe, if I remembered.
Did you just get in trouble again, too, by talking about it?
No.
That
was 2001. If he's still angry 22 years later, then there's a much larger problem.
Some people live off hate.
Yeah, some people have grudges, I mean.
You are correct.
Yeah. Well,
maybe he's making his own magazine right now.
I know. He's telling
He's telling your secrets now.
I try not to have any. It makes it far easier to get by in the day rather than trying to remember what I can and can't say.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you'll definitely you'll have to come back. We didn't even touch. There's so much stuff we didn't even talk about.
Yeah, I have like 5 more questions to ask.
Well, we got 8 minutes if you want to rapid fire any one of them, Dustin.
Go for it, Dustin.
Oh yes, yeah. Tim wants a Mumra playset with glowing cauldron. That would be awesome, and I agree.
It would be.
Okay, so I had a question about.
Yeah, that's what's happening.
It's like you got the Godzilla tail. I'm not saying nothing else.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Okay. With Chitara.
Yes.
Are you ever gonna release like a head pack? Because she didn't come with like a growling, aggressive face.
There's been a conversation we've had about just generally about if it would make sense to make a head pack for Thundercats. First off, to make them all with glowing eyes.
Yeah.
And like when the Sword of Omens calls them, like, oh, what if we made a head pack that had all the heads with glowing eyes, and then some of the other sort of different expressions that may not have been made? Would that be something people were into or not? And it's always that fine line between, will people think it's cool, or are people thinking I'm fleecing them and that I should have put it in the pack in the first place and I'm just showing up later to take your money?
Well, I look at it as like your correction, like you did with the accessory pack for the first wave, and you released like the pants and the shorts for Panthro and whatnot.
Yeah.
And fix the gun colors or whatever the problem was with those. But I just think it would be nice to have an aggressive growling face for her because she didn't get one.
Yeah. I think with her, especially because of it all comes back down to time, space, tooling, everything else. Yep. With her, with all her hair, and then the running head with how long it was like, we can have 2 heads with all the hair versus 3 little heads. And it was like, all right, so we've got 2 heads with all the hair. But we've actually talked about a head pack with Thundercats specifically because there are other heads that we could make.
Yeah, glowing eyes and whatnot. Yeah,
the glowing eyes being sort of the big miss, I think, for a lot of people. They want to have that moment, like when the Sword of Omens is calling them.
Yeah, no, I agree. I definitely would be a part of that.
I would definitely throw down on that. Something that's supplementary to a figure that you've already got, and that adds like something cool, like a feature like the Sword of Omens. I never even thought of that, and man, I'm already like thinking about money spending.
Let's see. This is me. So let me ask you guys about a few other things.
Yeah.
Market research here.
Yeah. So about Conan. Well, since you're wrapping up Conan the Barbarian, will Conan the Destroyer be on the table?
I've been trying my ass off for years on Destroyer. It is not there yet. The people that own Conan, other than Schwarzenegger, all the likeness rights don't exist with them, and they are very particular, not in a bad way, but particular that when they do things with the likeness, that they negotiate it through them. So that's why it took us so long. Not so long. I'm not trying to bag on them at all. They're great. So I don't want this to come out that way. But that's why it took a while, because they needed to get Valeria, the actress that played Valeria, on board. They needed to get the actor that played Subutai on board. And most of these people don't do licensing on a regular basis and everything else. And it becomes a much larger conversation about what they're doing with their likeness in conjunction with things outside of toys. So it becomes a much larger thing, because they want to set up the precedent for them being able to use that actor or actress in multiple capacities. So it just takes a while. So in that regard, right now, they're trying to finish out everybody in Barbarian before they get to Destroyer, because the demand for Barbarian is much higher than Destroyer. But yeah, I mean, Wilt Chamberlain, Grace Jones, Dagoth with Andre inside, yeah, we all know we want to make all that stuff and more. But it's not going to be like expedient, like we can do it next week. Right now, there are no rights on Barbarian, but it has been a long, ongoing conversation. We will hopefully eventually get there, but there's still definitely some more stuff in Barbarian that hasn't been done that we'll get to as well.
Yeah, I just want to see a Mako action figure, man. He deserves an action figure.
So I got to ask this from my buddy Lee, who's in Australia. Let me see. Will this figure come with an alternate closed mouth head?
I'm trying to think of all the heads that are with this one right now. Are they all open mouth?
I think there's a picture. No, go back. Oh, never mind. It's on this. Let me find it, because I think I have the picture of everything.
Yeah, that other head, he's got a closed mouth.
Okay, so that helmet's
It's probably he wants the figure of him in the helmet with a
helmet,
closed mouth versus
Yeah.
helmet off. Not at the moment, because this is sort of the assortment we've got for right now. But that's not a bad call.
Maybe you can. Well, it's probably too late to go in and
removable helmets are a nightmare. If you want to make a helmet actually fit onto the plastic with how thick it's got to be to hold its shape, all of a sudden it becomes Darth helmet. Like you got to mold it onto the face.
I know, because I do stuff like that through hobby things. So
yeah, I was about to say, I'll settle for a praying to come face.
I'm the helmet guy, so I mean I know where you're coming from on that.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's gonna be such a great figure though. That scene.
Yeah.
Grant me revenge.
Yes. Otherwise, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll do
the hell with you.
And then right.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for coming on. And
no, this was great. Thank you guys for having me. Hopefully it didn't wreck your show.
No. We can do that all by ourselves, man.
Yeah.
You clearly have not watched any other of our episodes.
Yeah, previous episode, I completely destroyed that one. We got so flagged on that thing, and it was my fault.
It wasn't your fault. It's the interweb and the AI. But yes, please come back.
All right.
Have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, you guys have a great holiday weekend. Hopefully everybody's got an extra day to hang out at the house and rearrange the shelves.
Every day is a day at the house.
Yeah, well, that's true.
I don't leave the house ever, unless for an appointment. But yeah, I hear you.
All right. Thank you guys very much for having me.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay.
That was so much fun.
So awesome.
All right, awesome. Well, I hope he gets some nice dinner in with the kids.
Yeah. So, anybody have anything to add? Oh man, I'm still seeing so many questions. If you
Yeah,
didn't
there's
answer your
so many
question, I'm sorry.
questions.
I have no tongue for it.
We do apologize. There were a lot of questions that were asked online elsewhere that we didn't even get to.
Right.
We knew the time crunch was going to kill us.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And but yeah, at least Billy Beige Customs, you know what's best in life. So
if you don't help me, I will consider other life choices.
Oh goodness. That was so much fun.
Yeah. Anybody else? Anybody got anything? Any follow up or announcements or anything like that?
Well, we have we can talk about we're doing a show tomorrow with
that is right.
JM Scherf.
That's right.
So be sure to tune into that. That's going to be fun.
If you love our theme song.
Yeah.
Even
especially
if you don't love our theme song. But yeah, I don't. If you hate our theme song, something's wrong.
Right.
Well,
yeah. Apparently, we got an exclusive. I wasn't prepared for that, but we did.
Yeah, we got some juicy bits.
Copper Kid first.
Yeah.
Eat it, Robo. and all you other.
I saw a comment. Somebody mentioned it's like somebody tell Retro Blasting because he canceled all of his Silverhawks because he was like,
I did see that.
Yeah, and he's like, I don't think Copper Kid's coming. Well, I was like, man, well, time to
put on Toy Suicide Watch.
No. He was just out, but just what I think.
Silverhawks is off the site. You can't find them. I'm just canceling.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm in. We're good to go.
It's why every toy. I feel like everybody ends up getting an ulcer looking for something or waiting for something to get announced that they know is coming.
Yeah. So what do you think's coming?
Oh, man.
I don't know, man. Like
Technodrome.
You think
God, can you imagine? That would.
That's too big, man. It's way too big.
That'd be like a beach ball made of solid plastic.
Because that's what the first
Massive.
one was.
Can you imagine how big? Can you imagine how big the Sky Sled is going to be? Right? It's going to be like that, right? I mean, because Copper Kid, he's going to be. I mean.
Well, we know it's nothing G.I. Joe, so he said
yeah.
Well, so this is the Mandora bike, the whatever.
Yeah.
So imagine just that longer with a giant ass set of wheels in the back.
God. Yeah, oh my
well, he has wheels. These have wheels that come down, but yeah, just big round wheels back here.
You know what my guess is? It's gonna be the length of two of those. I'm calling it right now.
Well, you probably could. Since it's such an elongated, it's a hot rod in space.
Yeah.
Something people have wanted for a long time. Yeah, no, that's true.
What's the most iconic vehicle of the things that they own?
Well,
dude,
what are those? I cannot think right now.
My mind goes to what's already made, though. You know?
It's going to be one of those where it finally gets shown and everybody's going to go, "Oh yeah."
No, well they the not sled, but the Thundercats thing that's like this that flies through the air. This Sky Shredder, the Sky Cutter, and
let's see.
There was a bad guy one too, or the good guy one version.
So they don't have Motu anymore, right?
No, I don't think they do.
That went back to Mattel, right?
Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah,
I'm remembering that. So Motu's out.
Well, I'm seeing toys of the Sky Cutter.
Yeah.
So somebody made that. So it'll be something that, right? Because you said it hasn't been made, right?
Right. Yeah, Sky Cutter hasn't been made. No, I think it has actually.
Yeah, it has. I'm looking at images right now. There was an old vintage one. Yeah.
Well, what about?
See, he said it wasn't Joe's though. He's for. I'm sorry. I'm just reading the comment here.
It's that weird cartoon where that boy turns into a Corvette.
Yeah.
You know what?
I remember that. I don't remember what it's called. No,
That's
he
it.
said it wasn't Joe's. They're not doing vehicles for Joe's.
That's it.
Right.
We're getting Knight Rider. We're getting Kit.
Turbo Team. Man, if you don't even Turbo Team, that's what it is.
God, I had Michael Knight figure, and I swear to God, it was like a 6-inch figure, and the kit was to scale with that figure, and it was electronic, and you push his the license plate. He said phrases from the show, and the doors opened.
No kidding.
It's just lost in time. I don't know what happened to it. I can only assume that there was a fire in at one of the houses I lived at where the shed caught fire in the backyard, and I can only assume that it was in that and just burned up. I had Dino Rider stuff. I had the big Diplodocus, that moved, and I just poof gone. I'm assuming that's what happened.
You think it's going to be Billy's little Doom Buggy from Power Rangers? Not the Doom Buggy, the beetle, the beetle that flies.
Oh God! What did they call that thing?
I can't remember. I'm going to look it up.
Oh, it was so stupid.
Yeah, it was just like a Volkswagen Beetle with just like garbage can lids and air hoses glued to it.
No, it's not gonna be that.
You don't want to have to pay
Hovercat. The Hovercat.
Somebody got something? You got something?
Man, I don't even have an opinion.
Well, you gotta have an opinion.
I didn't get to use it the whole show.
Oh shoot!
What?
I think.
What Doji Kaj? The
I was actually going to ask. I'm sorry. I was actually going to ask this if there was any interest in him doing Brave Star, because I feel like that's the only big '80s property that I haven't tried to tackle.
Well, I think
it would fit right in with them.
Well,
I know there's
Dustin, all the questions that we didn't get to ask, you've got a direct line to them. So screenshot them and send them to them. Say, hey, by the way, here's what we couldn't get to during the show. If you can, if you're sitting on the toilet or whatever, shoot me some answers.
we should. And I feel like I should have asked him. Look, when you want to do that reveal of Copper Kid, you should come talk to us.
Right.
Oh yes. Oh,
because
there you go, Dustin. Line it up.
Yeah, reveal party.
Get us that exclusive.
Come on the stream and reveal Copper Kid, please.
Just basically telling Dustin to whore us out.
Yeah.
Come on, whore us out.
I mean, it's
I'm
the
fine
oldest
with
profession.
Yeah, you're not denying it. You're like, yeah, give me that plastic.
It's the oldest profession. I mean,
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, man. I'm trying to think of a big vehicle.
I didn't get to ask my comparison joke. I wanted
You
to
know what? I'm willing. Here's where I'm legitimately hedging my bets. The Homer.
What?
The Homer. The car that Homer Simpson designed himself with the big bubble dome in it and everything.
is there a toy of that?
There, Simpsons.
The Homer.
The Homer. I will find a picture of it. Because it's so.
I know what you're talking about. There's toys of it.
Yeah, there was like a model kit of it. I used to have the model kit of it.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, we're gonna be. This is gonna keep me up at night. Thanks.
Oh, that's a terrible.
You're gonna have to make a spreadsheet. You get all of the lines that they've got right now through.
You guys are gonna come. That whole back
vehicles.
Yeah. That whole back wall is gonna be covered in post. Pepe Silva. Pepe Silva. So I've been thinking about this, right?
We need that clip.
Carol.
I know.
Carol.
Oh, we were 5 weeks ago.
Present screen. Share screen.
You haven't slept in 2 weeks. You're thinking about all that stuff.
I'm just chain smoking.
Oh, that's a terrible. This one. There it is. Okay, here we go. Sorry, technical issues. This thing. No, wired. Get out of here. No thanks. That thing.
Oh.
That
So-
monstrosity that Homer Simpson designed himself, and that his
Yeah.
brother built it, and it ruined him. It has the separate compartment to put your kids in so they don't bother you.
I know there was the model kit. Yeah, I just looked it up, but I mean, does that count? Model kit? I mean, it's
No,
not
man,
technically
like,
a toy.
and plus they're doing that. You know, the Simpsons. That's the most. I think that's even more iconic than their station wagon and the
This
pink
is-
car. I mean, they could do the family car, but I feel like
Yeah,
the Homer's iconic. I'm just going to put my crazy bet down on that.
yeah. I'm looking at the comments here.
Hmm.
Bravestar. I don't even know who has the license to Bravestar, but I do know there's another company out there that's making not Bravestar stuff. Like it's called the Marshall.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm not gonna say their name because they kind of screw us over. But Tiger Sharks. I have no idea who has that license. And
Surely surely that's all because that was all.
you think it's
You
all
know, Rankin Bass. That was
right? That's
all
what I
the
say, Rankin
same.
Bass.
Yeah, it should. I think
But
so.
but now with WB, like you never know, you know?
Oh yeah, they could absolutely sell that off at any second.
Yeah,
Just
they-
dump all that stuff. Like
No-
we
no
don't
one-
want Thundercats and Tiger
Yes,
Sharks. We don't
yeah,
want it.
yeah. That's well, we. I mean, not to like talk trash or anything, but we were going to get Ramen on the show, and we were talking back and forth about meeting up and maybe looking at some products, some stuff that they were going to send us, and we were going to pay for it anyways. We wanted it,
Yeah,
and
they just threw it out to offer. Like,
yeah,
hey,
yeah, and they
you,
were
you
like, no,
want samples? We're like, yeah.
yeah, I mean, we'll take
Sure.
them, but we're going to get the product anyways because we like what you're giving out. And then they kind of just, in a non BS way, kind of told us, well, you guys aren't really big enough and kind of not worth our time. So
Yeah.
it kind of was like,
And
oh,
straight
okay,
up
cool.
ghosted us.
Yeah,
that
and I
was
was like,
before they ghosted us, and then we reached out like, "Hey, what's
Yeah.
going on?"
yeah.
And then they
so-
explained
Yeah.
why they ghosted
Well,
us.
Right.
So hit that like and subscribe and tell your buddies, hey, come watch.
yeah, I mean, I
Even
don't.
better, send this video, link it to them, and tell them to check out the newest episode with Brian from SUPER7.
Look who we got.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we are. I mean, I agree. We're not that big, but we're working on it. We're getting there, and I
not
appreciate
even like
everybody
I'm not
that's
mad.
here.
Yeah.
I'm just upset
Yeah,
because I'm
It
like we didn't do anything.
yeah. It just felt kind of rude.
Yeah.
Yeah, but hey, yeah, you're right. And
Well,
I
thank
mean,
you.
we got Manscaped for like a little more than a month. You know, come on.
I mean, you can't tell. I mean, yeah.
No,
And
I'll shave this. I'll shave this, but never this. Well, once a year, I need a beard vacation.
I'll do the Wolverine chops if you guys want.
Thank you, Billy. Billy's a good promoter. He is that squirrel and has that nut and just running with it, and he goes
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
He's just a squirrel trying to get a nut to move your butt.
Hey, Billy. Billy, are you more of a Carl's Jr. guy or a Hardee's?
There's a story behind that symbol that he's got there. It's
Oh yeah.
it's kind of a riff. It's a riff off of that, but he combined it with the Mythic Legion's Sons of the Red Star logo.
Oh,
They're the
okay.
faction symbol for that. So that's why there's like a skull face in it. And me and him were talking, and he was like, "Yeah, I got to come up with a name for this." And I'm like, "Wow, crap! What did I say, Billy? Sons of the Burger Star or something like that."
The Hardinians.
Do you think that the actor Tom Hardy, when he visits the West
It's all
Coast,
Hardee's,
he's
baby. Yeah.
Tom Carl Jr.?
What was that, Bo?
it's not. I don't even know if it's worth repeating because it's so stupid. I just said if Tom Hardy, when he goes to the West Coast, does he become Tom Carl Jr.?
He doesn't respond. But yeah, I miss Hardee's because where I'm currently at is Carl's Jr. and I just find it unacceptable.
Your brain just can't accept it, like an alternate reality. Like Hardee's.
So I tell my wife, I want to go to Hardee's, and she's like, "There's no Hardee's here," and I'm like, "Yes, there is." You know, Jesus. But yeah, to piggyback off Really Bad Kid 72, I hope SUPER7 keeps going with Conan. Yeah, me too, bud. That's the reason I asked about the Conan the Destroyer, because I want that iconic Conan, when he's kneeling down at the beginning of the movie and he's praying, and I was like, oh man, like, just give us that one. If you can't get the likenesses to everybody else, just pump that one out, because I know Arnold is pretty easy to come by nowadays. It's the same thing with Red Burrito. Yeah, it's Green Burrito for
oh yeah, I forgot
for Carlos Jr. It's like, it's so weird, man, but whatever.
I just want to see Mako. What was Mako's character, that wizard guy he played?
He was the wizard. He was literally
did
just
he have a name?
Supatai. No, Supatai was the archer. Right?
Was it? Oh yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, Supatai is the archer. Yeah, you never.
What's his name?
I'm going to have to watch these Conan movies again. It's been too long.
I don't. If I remember right, he never really gave his name. He
Better
just
look it up quick.
Yes, please. Let's settle this. It's comments. Can you beat him? Did Mako have Mako's character? Surely he had a name.
So I have something to blow your minds.
What do you got?
I've
Ramen Toys just agreed to come on the show.
Thanks for watching, Ramen.
It's too.
No, I said I've never seen Conan.
Oh, here it is.
Anyways.
Akira the wizard.
Okay.
You've never seen Conan?
Come on.
What do we got to do to? I think, where's it at? What
I need to look it up.
Go look it up, dude. It's. I know.
I mean, I've seen
it. Might blow. It might blow your mind because it's really good. Mister, I play Halo 3 before. I just kept me up at night. You understand? I wake up in a hot sweat. I'm like, oh, he played Halo 3 before 1 or 2.
I did.
I bet you didn't. I bet you didn't even play Reach, did you?
Reach is the best one.
Yes,
it's still my favorite.
Oh,
I'm with you though. I've barely. I wouldn't even consider that I've played Halo. I've barely touched those games.
Netflix has Conan. No excuse now. There you go. Thank you.
Nice. All right.
And up until I was gonna say watch Red Sonja too, but you blew my mind because my memory puts that as that was Conan, but apparently it's not.
He says I'm in Caldor.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he didn't have the rights, But just watch Red Sonja at your leisure, but definitely Conan the Barbarian. Oh my god, dude! Like that.
Yeah. Just go. I don't know if you caught that, but he talked a lot about how we are in the golden age of.
Yeah.
God, I mean, just pick one. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. How many different options do you have?
Yeah, so many.
And think about G.I. Joe. How many options you got for G.I. Joe now? And I mean, there's God forbid you get into imports.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry if you do that because I'm broke. Yeah.
Well, Thanks everybody if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. We do all sorts of weird, crazy shit here.
Yeah. If anything, like, comment, subscribe to it.
Yeah.
Just do it out of spite now because yeah. Just so we could. Ramen can maybe booty call us at some point, and we'll be like, nah.
But you guys had Matt Rod, and you had brought we'll give you free chargers.
I already paid for a charger.
Yeah, I know.
Sucks. I still want it, but you know what? That's a different conversation.
Yeah. Well,
that's very uninteresting.
Hey, but hey, good news though. We're getting Copper Kid.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh no, this is what I should. You bought. You're still gonna buy that charger?
You sicken me.
Yeah. I don't think I can get my money back.
I think that's the thing with a lot of these pre-orders. You basically have to cut off a foot to get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it's a 112 Dodge Charger that I can.
No, I'm not gonna shit it. That is actually one of the things I was thinking about when he talks about how, everybody has their brand loyalty. It's how could you buy from that and all that stuff? I'm not gonna give you shit. Yeah. That thing makes you happy. It makes you happy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you come over to my house and I've made like a custom Vin Diesel, then you can.
I don't know. Are you zombie?
I can neither deny nor confirm this.
Yeah. I want to. I really, really want to, and I'm hoping to convince the powers that be to go. At this point, we're even trying to just trying to make it to PowerCon. Just one day of PowerCon. So
that is true. Talking about, we were talking about things that
which one?
Something.
He's talking about the hell charger. Yeah.
They really came back and bite them in the ass. Now everybody's doing vehicles. Like,
I mean, yeah, everybody's doing
vehicles,
and everybody seems to have figured out that vehicles have a top, middle, and bottom. And
well, I have not asked Todd McFarlane, and he has not said no. So maybe.
I still love that Batmobile, man. I know that's got that gray top. The only way I will be upset is if he re-releases it with the Silverhawks caps and the fixed canopy. Then I will be like, Todd, I'm coming for you.
Well, if I ever secure one,
don't worry about it, Bo.
We'll get him on the show next and pick his brain.
God, can you imagine? We would get in one question, and that would be the entire show.
Yeah. While he sketches, while he does an entire comic, while he be like, I just need, if you think I'm not paying attention, it's not true. I'm totally paying attention. I just need to get this out before 5 more minutes.
And then he makes fun of Rob Liefeld's like haircut or his shirt or something.
Yeah, he's had the same haircut since the 90s.
McFarlane is Coke personified.
I know, and I love him for it. Yep.
Well, sincerely, thank you everybody for.
Yeah, we need to get.
Yeah, thanks everybody for stopping by. You've definitely made the show a whole lot better.
Yeah,
I love chatting with you guys.
What'd you say, Dustin? We need to get what?
We need to get Bobby Valla on here too, because Joe Fest is coming up, and he has a really cool vehicle that it sounds like he's actually going to have it at Joe Fest.
Yeah, and it's a really cool story behind that vehicle. If you guys, if anybody watched the Terminal List on Amazon with Chris Pratt, there's a badass cars that they're a bunch of security vehicles that come up, and they're like futuristic security vehicles, and no one knew what they were. And they're from a company called if you want to look them up, they're hilarious. They're Resvani. They're bulletproof. They spray tear gas from underneath them. They're insane. They're like almost $1 million a piece. And
I know it reminds me of that Tango and Cash super van or whatever.
So Bobby Valla like literally was like, man, that looks cool. I'm gonna call those guys. Hey, let's go ahead. The next thing you know, he's in a deal with them, and he's making their vehicles. That's the Resvani tank is now going to be the Vanguard.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Well, I know he talked about just in case. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
I wish someone made figures for.
Oh
man.
Tango and Cash.
That would be sweet.
Since you brought it up, Tango and Cash.
You got to have the vehicle too.
Yeah, the super van. I mean, God.
I know they've done the little figures, but I would like a 6-inch scale Willow. I would like Mad Mardigan and General Kale.
Yep.
Especially General Kale.
I would like SUPER7 just go ahead and give us Over the Top.
You know what? They made Over the Top action figures.
I know. And they need to be back.
It's weird that happened, but it did.
Mm-hmm. They were like the Rock'em Sock'em, but
Big Trouble in Little China.
Big Trouble in Little China. Yes.
Yeah. There's like
we would need a Jack Burton, and then
the Port Shop Express and the.
Yep, the vehicle is on the terminal.
Wang.
Yes.
I would want Wang. Wang was the shit.
You don't have a Wang
now.
I do not have a Wang.
Yeah, Billy. The vehicle is
I would like a 6-inch Wang.
If you remember back watching the terminal list, the character Steve Horn, the big bad guy, when he pulls up with his crew and like his little motorcade, the Resvani tank is that silver security vehicle.
Yeah, the 3
So
storms.
if you want to get an idea of what it's going to look like, that's going to be it.
And it has to be able to pose so you can do the he did, and those were like when they were like statues. Oh, I guess I should highlight the comment to be more. McFarlane did do a Jag curtain.
Was that McFarlane or was that somebody else?
Oh, wait a minute. That could have been that other company that did like Patrick Bateman and everything.
McFarlane did Escape from LA.
Yeah, that's
and it was the statue. And which, good Lord, can we revisit that?
Well, yeah, Snake Plissken doesn't have. That is weird that nobody's went to try to tackle that.
Yeah, I would love another Escape movie, to be honest.
I know. I wanted that. They should do a prequel comment to explain whatever the hell this. You remember that one line where he's talking about you survived Cleveland?
Yeah.
I'm like, what does that mean?
Well,
when did that happen?
he meant actual Cleveland right now, 2023 Cleveland. You ain't gonna survive that, dog. Not even Snake Plissken.
Catches on quick, doesn't he?
Yeah, I'm telling you, we need old man Snake Plissken surviving somewhere really stupid.
Escape from Cleveland, yeah.
Escape from Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah. Escape from Cancun. It's just a 5-minute film. Be like, nah, sipping margaritas. Yeah, but anyway, I'm sorry.
They just run. Oh well, I was going to say combine it with Captain Ron, but let's get a Captain Ron action figure. Hashtag get Captain Ron.
Yep. God.
There's got to be somebody out there that's made a custom Captain Rons. At least one person in this world.
Escape from
Look, I live like 20 minutes away from New Orleans. I don't even go to New Orleans.
So you can't you can't escape there because you won't go there.
I'm out. I'm not even looking that direction. No,
With wooden eye.
With the wooden eye, yes.
Well,
we got us a fan.
Yes. God. There you go.
So yeah, send this video to Fwoosh and Pixel Dan and everybody so they can talk about how the Copper Kid confirmed for Wave 5.
Oh yeah. Yep. Well, I guess we'll have to pay attention and see what happens. I mean, good Lord, man. We were straight up just stressed out about that figure. Like, I don't know if it's coming, man. What have I done? What have I done? Did I just buy a team that I'm always gonna look and there's a little gold copper hole there?
And you carve like a crude wooden one that you just paint. And you look, here he is. I made him out of my fingernails.
Yeah, I've got some fingernails.
Send me your fingernails. I need
a space ride.
I've cut all of mine off. I need more fingers. Just God.
Bone protruding and bleeding.
Yeah, no. But guys, thank you. That was a great show. That was a good show.
That was a good episode.
Yeah. Thank you for my Cabal buddies for joining the show, because that is like that, and my Instagram stories was the only places that I advertised this and was saying, hey, if you got questions, now's the time.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you guys coming and joining the show. Maybe you found a new show to watch.
Yeah, I'm horrible at social media, so
yeah,
you can come harass me if you want. Anything else?
Man, I don't know.
Did you guys get anything in the box? Do we have any unboxed to open or talk about like that? We advertised our show that we're gonna do tomorrow, and we got Sean LaChance from Arclay Mountains on Monday, right?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Sean and what you got?
Oh yes, Legends. Oh, buddy.
Yep.
Wait a minute, let me blow them up. There we go.
Which one is okay? I just got these in a trade from my buddy Derek, and that's the female. It's really bad glare. Sorry. That's the female Orc Legion builder from the War of the Aether Blade figures, and it's the Forge Founder releases. Got the thing on the bottom and the gold on top. Nope, wrong side. There, Forge Founder. So that's from the original crowdfunding thing, and then the male Orc. He's super cool. I love this one. I love
the helmet.
I love the face, the painted face.
Yes.
Yeah, that was cool.
That's the one that's going to be on my shelf.
Yeah.
God,
they come with so much. These are builders like deluxe sets, the true deluxe sets. They come with so much stuff. You can't even. There's like 2 layers of stuff in here.
Right.
You got the figure and all the heads and some of the weapons, but then in the back, there's like shields and other parts you can put on him and more weapons. It's insane the amount of stuff. This is a heavy box.
Yeah.
What did you trade? Your firstborn?
I traded some old McFarlane stuff, some of the new McFarlane stuff.
Fingernails.
Fingernails. There may be some of my hair in that box. So it was a really sweet deal. He got stuff that he wanted, and I got stuff that I wanted, and we were both happy.
Win-win.
Can you imagine waking up in the middle of the night like that scene in Logan, and there's an evil version of you standing over the bed?
I did get one more thing, and Zach beat me to it, I think.
Oh,
so
man.
I got mine, and
Hudson.
I don't want to. Don't look at the bright orange thing that's still on it. Oh, this is probably my favorite looking gargoyle figure.
It's pretty great, man. I haven't.
He is so awesome, and it was a pickup from my buddy Travis at Omega. Buddy, I got to get you on the show.
They're having a sale, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Memorial Day sale.
Yeah, check out their website.
The website might not have everything they have in the store, but there's probably some contact info, and he's willing to ship if you're willing to pay. So
yeah.
Hey.
So man, I need you to get a gargoyle, just a spare one, an open one, and actually paint it like a gargoyle.
Oh, like the stone.
Yeah, give it a stone texture and everything. I think it's really cool.
I do have an extra Goliath.
I'm just saying, I wouldn't mind seeing it.
It's funny. The guy who's about trading is ready to trade.
I do that, and that's NECA. I do that, and then NECA will go, oh, by the way, we're going to make these now.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, man.
It's always the thing of it. I still want to get Hudson. I really like him. I'm interested about the Lexington though. He's actually going to have flexible wings.
Yeah.
And that's partly because of him and his
he's like a squirrel
genetics.
Thing,
yeah, he's like a squirrel guy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, he definitely looks good.
They did.
I've put gargoyles in that category of like, if I see it, I'll pick it up.
Yeah,
I'm not like going and like pre-ordering and like doing online stuff, but if I happen to walk by it and it's there, damn it,
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what's happening, because I've told you, like, I don't know how many times I've told you, I'm not going to collect those anymore. And then I show up and I'm like, so
I got this.
So I'm weak.
Hey Zach, I see you got another Goliath. Shut up.
Shut.
I did tease this up while Brian was kind of, and I was like, this little on the screen or whatever. This isn't a Legion's figure that you can just get as is. So this is kind of a little pop and swap I did with the heads pack and the unknown one, and so but this the skull helmet thing that I was teasing Brian about a little bit. This is a new piece that I sculpted before Legion's Con last year, 2020. Sculpted, sent it to Lynn from Wolf King Customs. He had it scanned, and we did some digital work to it to really just put the details back into it. Added more details, as a matter of fact. And we got the fit perfect. It is available right now at wolfkingcustoms.com, unpainted. So I'm trying to work on getting some painted or whatever. But so I've got
Yeah, the
That-
helmet looks astounding on that. Like, absolutely
it's
perfect fit.
it's super cool. And another piece that I did, that this was one of my very first Mythic Legion sculpts that I did, and it's got the hole in it so that you can put it on one of the figures. Like if I just popped his head off, and it's a pop fit, so you don't need any like blue tack, sticky tack, or whatever. But so this, when I first did it, I couldn't call it a mind flayer. I was contacted by someone I'm still not going to name and said, hey, you can't. So I went with just kind of scientific name at the time, called it a cephalopod, which turns out no one but me can say. Everybody has trouble pronouncing that. For a long time, it was never really available for anybody unless you came to me, and I was able to make a mold off of the original sculpted one, which is really risky, and make a hand-casted piece. So for years, I say years, it was like 2016. The only way to get this was an actual hand-casted poured resin piece, and the details that we were able to put in here through Wolf King, it's so much better than my original sculpt. It is my original sculpt. We just put a lot more detail into it, and that's available unpainted for now. Again, at wolfkingcustoms.com. So go buy some of my pieces, please. Anybody watching?
You real quick, you can find me outside of pretty much your local Home Depot. I'll paint your house. That's all I got.
I can pick up heavy things.
Right.
Oh, I guess I should joke around. I actually do. I have books. You can go buy books, I guess, if you want to read. Speaking of, we should.
Well, I have this. Yeah.
So we had two of those. Oh, real quick, Zach, you were talking about tinnitus. The guy I interviewed, the director, he made a pair of albums that's supposed to alleviate tinnitus, and it's a pay what you want on his Bandcamp. Seth's fundog.bandcamp.com.
Well, I think mine is my particular tinnitus is brought on by damage. So
yeah,
like,
I know we were talking about it.
Yeah, mine's not coming back. Because I'll just be talking to people, and every once in a while, and then next thing you know, my hearing will just and I have to like space out for a second. I'm like, get blown up a few times, you know.
Yeah,
it's scary, man. That movie, Sound of Metal, just absolutely terrified me.
Yeah,
like it's like I don't know the audio equivalent of claustrophobia. I was like, oh my god, I hope I never lose my hearing.
Yeah.
It's just terrifying.
It's I mean, it just sucks, but then it'll stop, and I'll kick back into a conversation, and then hope that I can predict what they were saying by what they're saying now. So that that's why I'm always asking you, can you repeat that? If I do, it's because I missed about 30 seconds of it.
So when I called you that one time and I was telling you about my personal life crisis, and you just said potato salad. That's what that was.
Thank you. I was thinking about getting a cut.
No, you weren't.
That's the end of that scene.
Yeah. I don't have any products up, but I do have something kind of big that I'm working on, a little side project for Dragon Ball fans.
Yeah, buddy.
I got this stupid idea for a wall stand, and I was like, oh man, if it works out, I'll make a mold out of it and then cast it in resin and paint it and see if it's something I can mass produce. And if it works out, then and you have some Dragon Ball figures that you'd like to put on the wall, I'll pay attention to my Instagram.
Which is point below
which is
a little there it is.
Yeah. And really bad. Yeah. And to answer this question,
What if I could punch him? Oh, I can't.
Yeah. How good is that Lexington's? See, that's the thing. I haven't seen it, like in hand. I've only seen pictures online, for pre-order. But man, it looks good. I think it looks good. He's a little buff for Lexington, but I think it's because of that style that they're making these figures in. They're like really, really muscular, which a lot of people don't like it. But man, I think it's kind of cool.
Oh, I dig it.
Yeah, I thought it was a little tall, if anything. But then again, it's because I'm remembering him always like being squat, and he was always in his squat position.
Yeah.
But he could be that tall. And
the thing is, we haven't seen. Has there been any promotion shots with him next to other gargoyles? Because all the other pictures I remember seeing, he's by himself.
So. Yeah.
I want to see him next to, Goliath.
Yeah, next to Goliath. And
yeah. But that line is going crazy. I mean, I don't know if you saw, what was it, Toy Fair or last year they showed Xanatos, the armored legions.
Yep.
Man, dude, they look insane. So the wingspan is a huge killer of space. That's why I have hooks hanging from my ceiling, and I hang my gargoyles. And they're all in flight mode, because it's like, man, I don't have any shelf space for that. Like, I know it looks pathetic behind me, but all my figures are actually here in front, and that's so I can sit here and look at all the money that I've spent.
Look at that Simpsons thing where all the pictures of Maggie with Homer.
Zombie, all that stuff's behind you, so you kind of have that nice piece, But,
don't even want to think about it.
Yeah. Me, I look over here and I'm like,
at least
do it for them.
At least with the gargoyles, if you are going to get the whole line or whatever, they do come with the folded wings. You just have to buy the human characters or the other people to get them.
That's the only thing I don't like about the line is, like, you have to be all in to get the, like, they're treating them kind of like a Build-A-Figure kind of thing, and I'm like, I kind of wish, like, you could fit, dude, if you've seen these boxes, you could put the folded wings in there. Like, don't lie to me. They can fit in there. And to bounce off right here, are you talking about Macbeth or the actual Vikings from the Viking area? Because I saw that Macbeth, there was like a silhouette. He hasn't been fully revealed yet, but I think Macbeth is coming.
Or Cold Stone. Are you talking about Cold Stone?
Cold Stone is coming, but no, you remember Macbeth, like the guy who's immortal and he's like entwined with Demona? Yeah. He, like, they showed like a silhouette. I'm pretty sure I didn't make that up. I'm almost positive. And so, because I think he'll come out and he'll come with the folded wings for Demona. Mark my words.
I can answer this question. I'm willing to bet it's because NECA's, joints aren't their strong suit.
Yeah.
Well,
probably not.
Yeah.
Are you saying the ones in the beginning that attacked the castle?
Yeah. I guess it'd be cool if they did like a 3-pack and maybe did them like army builders, so you could buy a bunch and like swap out heads, and then you could build as many Vikings as you wanted. You think that'd be too crazy? No,
I don't. NECA's done crazier things, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
because I don't remember any like standout Viking character that was like, oh yeah, that's the main Viking. They were all pretty much all assholes. Yeah. Which
Vikings. It turns out they don't like that.
It's like,
oh god,
you got stuff, I don't have stuff. I want that stuff.
What was that joke? It's the GoFundMe from the.
That's the original GoFundMe. Yeah. It's my. Hey, you want to support my Kickstarter? No, not really. Well, you're gonna.
Time for your rewards.
Yeah. So I better shut up. NECA could be listening now that we're like top level now.
I don't think anybody's gonna take our ideas.
No. Just send us a little royalty check if you do. And then I wonder if anybody tried. Let me see. Pull this up here, Billy. I thought about this. A flying Nimbus cloud. I've actually thought about it. Yeah, I kind of have it in the back burner of how I would do it. It's just the only problem is with casting it, I think it would be so damn heavy. Like, because then I would have to make it hollow or something, and I don't have the ability to injection molds to make hollow. I would only be able to cast it in solid resin, or do it in 2 parts and then put them together. Then you would have that seam, and that would look ugly to me. So
just hide the seam in the cloud.
It would still, I would still know it's there. And it's, and it's a cloud, and
I don't know, man. Toy photographers do not care about that stuff as long as it looks good.
Because in my mind, I would want it to be solid enough to where it would to be stable enough for a figure. And because me, I do stands, and I'm big about stands on. I hate figures falling over, so I'm making stands constantly. I'm 3D printing, doing stuff, and I made those stands for you, and I'm big into that. So I would want it to be that, but also be stable, but not heavy enough to where it brings down your shelf.
See, look, you got that. Somebody would buy it.
Well,
I told you, people will buy it.
Well, let me work some stuff out and see what I can do, and I'll make some molds and paint some up, and then if you like them, let me know, and then we'll go from there. Clancy Brown played the Viking. Yeah, you're right. Icon. Jesus.
I gotta go back and watch it, but just Clancy Brown in anything is just
Clancy Brown.
Yeah, he's amazing.
He's like a top tier list of persons I would love to meet in person and just shake their hand and be like, you're one of the greatest fucking people that's ever existed. You keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say to you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So I guess I better get off here and get busy on some molds.
Can't make it unless you're doing it.
Yeah, the stand though. Keep in mind the stands. I'm doing that first. The plan is to be how when the Z character comes down, it makes a huge little impact blast when they power up and everything.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm doing. It's going to be an impact blast, and it's going to be rubble, and you can put your figure in it, and you can hang it on the wall, and it'll be a floating stand, so you can mount your bars in, and there's no, you don't. It's floating.
Yeah, they said do it. Doesn't matter how you do it. Do it.
Yeah. If it's 2 parts, you can glue it. Yeah, you're right. We'll see, because like I said, I'm limited by how much I can do in my office.
Yeah, if you do it, and Billy, if you get one, see, Billy's got his own channel that he does. He talks kind of like us about anything and everything, and he reviews things. And everybody knows Billy.
Well, I'm gonna have to come check you out, Billy. See what you got. But
join us tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking to JM, and then Monday we're talking to Arklay Mountains.
Yep.
Who recently released what was it? Dark Souls. Jeez, a Dark Souls themed metal album. That was really fucking great. If you're into that,
is it still available to pick up on cassette too?
I don't know if they sold out a cassette. I totally bought a cassette.
Oh my God.
I was like, I gotta have a cassette of it.
That thing you sent me today, Dustin. Oh my God, I wanted to reach the screen and strangle that girl.
I know, right?
What happened? What am I missing?
So I sent Zombie a meme earlier, and it's this girl. She's talking about, I got this antique radio, and it has this thing that says tape, but I don't know, why would you store tape in there? And then she's talking about, maybe it's, someone said it might be for, your iPod. So you might put that iPod in there, and then it plays through the speakers. That'd be so cool. I don't really know. And blah, blah. She's just going on and on and on and on and on and on and on about this.
We're not. Come on, that's like us acting like we don't know what an 8-track is. They're like, what it's like a fat cassette?
It gets to the point where she asks somebody in the store, do you sell that tape? And the clerk tells her, oh no, we end up just throwing them away because nobody buys the cassettes. And then the girl can't even say cassette. She says gazette or something.
Cassette.
Cassette.
Yeah,
cassette.
it's what are you this can't be real.
Hold on real quick. Keep talking.
Yeah,
so it's on to sell an album.
Well, hey, you know what? I was just thinking. I was talking about stands. I got one right here. I come up. The idea was, tabletop, minis. Well, I came up with the idea. I was like, well, man, what if I make like,
Hang
let
on.
me zoom in on you.
this is
There you
a this is
Oh
a
yeah, I totally got one of those. I love
yeah
it.
this is for 112 action figures, and I put nice little rubber feet on them so they stick to your DTOFs or your little whatever I do mat or whatever. And then there's a little peg. I have like other peg size, so if you want to do like Mezco or Legions, whatever you want. And
He does the moon. He did me a moon surface for my Buzz Lightyear.
yeah, I did a moon and everything. But yeah, I was like,
It's
I did
great.
this one for Obi-Wan, and Lion-O.
What here? I wanted to do this because I want to sell this because they totally did. And it's Bandcamp, so that means you can listen to it for free before you buy, which is really cool. But it's really cheap anyway, so you might as well. There you go.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't think it's. I'm gonna play a little bit of it. I don't think it's gonna hurt.
the lawyer just contacted me. We are in serious shit.
That happened the other night, so I don't want to curse.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. I don't think they care, but yes, and not to brag, I got to do that album cover, man. That was fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You see me look over at my door. What do you want?
Yeah, we watched Zach get swatted because of something I did. Get him, officer.
What the fuck did I do wrong?
We got to go out on that.
Yeah.
Sincerely, everybody, thanks for showing up.
Yeah,
we'll be back tomorrow,
everything.
Monday. Just subscribe to us. Keep up with what we're doing.
Yeah.
And
one of these shows, I'm gonna do a pop and swap live. I've already got the character that I want to do for Mythic Legion's pop and swap, and I've missed so many shows since I've talked to Dustin about wanting to do this. And tonight,
you should do a live stream. You really should do a live stream of your process.
Yeah,
I think a bunch of people would watch that. I would.
Do it.
Oh, I'd be terrible at it because I don't heat anything up. I literally grab the figure and the parts that they tell you that you should heat up, I'm popping them apart because I'm so used to doing it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think you should totally do it though. Get you a little cheap little heat gun off Amazon. I got one for
Oh,
like
no,
11
Oh,
bucks.
he has a heat gun.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's
I've
a
got a
safety
heat
hazard.
gun.
Oh shit! Now we just got flagged for that too.
We
Brandishing
already have a
weapons.
thumbnail, man.
Oh, no.
All right.
No.
Good night, everybody.
All right, boys.